All right. I would like to call session to order, please. Roll call. Joni is not a test of publication. I did see it. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Tina, seconded by Shelley to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I will read the mission, vision, and value statements tonight. Mission, Bangor Pride, a small school building big futures. Vision, an innovative small school creating excellence through personalized learning and relationships for all. Values, student-centered, safety, opportunities for all. Small class sizes, fiscally sustainable, foster community, continuous improvement, professionalism. Our Board of Education collective commitment. As a member of the Bangor School Board, I will be an active listener who is open-minded, respectful, and inquisitive. Together, with one collective voice, we are committed to forward thinking while strategically prioritizing for our students, staff, and community now and into the future. All right, public comment. Approval of minutes from November 12th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made by Tina, seconded by Lisa. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Welcome, students. Come on up. For the student report, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jordan Sackmaster again. Sorry I was not here last month. Also sorry for my appearance. I just got done with basketball practice, so yeah. Okay, so I would say this is just a recap of everything kind of in the past month. So girls basketball obviously started. Our last game we won against Hillsborough, and we play against Necedah tomorrow at Necedah. Boys basketball, they lost their first game, and then their game got canceled last night. So I'm not exactly sure when that's rescheduled to, but and then for gymnastics, they had a meet last Saturday, I believe, and our Camden Liga, she placed third all around, and was Camden placed fifth all around and on floor, seventh on balance beam, and then the whole team placed third. And then for hockey, they are 0-2, unfortunately, but they had a close game with the Crescent, and they played, I believe that was last week sometime, and then the next game is tomorrow in Baldwin, if you guys want to go there. And then for ASL, they're on a break right now, and floor hockey season doesn't start until January. For clubs, FCCLA was doing some fundraisers, and now we're baking everything. We had a sheet of things that like we would personally make. So I was just in there, and I smelled like peanut butter before basketball practice, and we're making peanut butter blossoms for that. And then we're also preparing for the hygiene drive in January. And then I have McKenna here to talk about FFA because she's a president of FFA.
Hi, how are you guys? So I think your meeting was November 12th, correct? Your last one? So that Thursday, Friday, we had an impact conference where we traveled to Madison, I think. And it was just a leadership, learning about what it is to become a leader and make change within our communities. And I think it was really great to meet so many people from across the states, or across the Wisconsin state. So, yeah. And then we have a meeting tonight. It's our chapter meeting. We're making dog toys for a local animal shelter. And then we're also doing baking, kind of, for the holiday in the village tomorrow. So we are having a table set up, and then we are also selling donkey basketball tickets at the table in with the baking stuff. So sorry. So we are starting up a bunch of selling for basketball tickets. So please tell everybody the price right now is $10 per ticket, but then at the door is $15. So it's a blast.
Where's your table at that you'll be selling baked goods?
It is in the first responders building.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so moving on, for B Club, since the game was canceled last night, we were originally going to do our chili fundraiser for that, but that has been moved next week, Tuesday, and I believe it's the girls' game play there. So then come out and get some chili. I believe it's $8 for all you can eat, and then $1 for drinks. So, and we have a new club. We started a book club. Miss Peyton, our librarian, did. We just had our first meeting last Wednesday, I believe, and I believe we're just gonna do some like fun game book related things. So that should be fun. Quiz Bowl has continued practicing, and we're looking at a tournament around February time. Student Council is planning an activity before break for all students. I believe it's going to be during Cardinal time, so the last part of the day, to kick off break. NHS has just gotten done with their food drive. They brought in lots of food from the community, and all the students helped sort and deliver it to elementary school. And then 8th grade leadership will go down there next week to help package it up. And then forensics is also just starting, and I believe one of their meetings is going to be with this week, and they're going to choose some of their topics. Moving on to music, our concert, the high school concert, is next Monday. Band plays at 6, and then choir at 7. And then the jazz band has also been playing at Rotary Lights. I think that was last week that they had their performance. And then recapping the musical, it was really fun, and I hope some of you got to come and see it because it was an absolute blast, and I thought that it was amazing. It turned out very well. And then just for some random school things, we had our day of service a couple weeks ago now. It went really well, and then some of the groups went down to elementary school, and the elementary schoolers really enjoyed it. And also we might do something fun before break, which the student council is planning. So that's it. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you for both of you for taking time out to come. And you're right, the musical was fantastic. All right, moving on. Board President's Report. So we do have some board terms ending at the end of April, Kelly and myself. Kelly is at large and I'm from the north. Both of our terms end in April. And we need to submit papers of non-candidacy by December 26th if we do not plan on running again. Otherwise, our paperwork is due by January 6th, and any other candidates that wish to run would be due January 6th as well. If you have any questions, you can ask Jean Reigel. Thank you, Jean, very much for your help. Strategic planning, final language. So we talked at the last meeting that Dr. Brockup would find a date, and it's just been kind of busy. So we're looking at our mission, vision, and values that we worked on in November. And if everyone is invited to join on December 17th, next Wednesday at 6 p.m. in the middle school, high school library. So if you can come, please come, and if you are unable, that is okay too. But please come if you can. Any questions about either of those? All right, committee reports, building and grounds.
Yeah, I think I said I would just kind of chat to this. So in the consent agenda, there are a number of items tonight, and I'll just run through them real quick. They were all items that we had put into this year's budget, and we had talked about. I was able to get numbers and get projects started in between meetings. So I had some phone conversations just to kind of verify and make sure everybody was on the same page with the Building Grounds Committee. We have changed the company that we're working with for our roof maintenance and just repairs and stuff along the way. And we're going to be working with McCabe. They will still be out yet when the weather is warm enough throughout the winter and start working on some of the areas that they had identified during that project. McCabe is a company that we have looked to work with in the past, and they have been too busy at that point in time. So to get them and get them working with us now was a real positive for us. So we're looking forward to that relationship. The masonry hasn't started, but we've talked about the tuck pointing and the expansion joints and some of the repairs that need to be made to this building, the middle school, high school building. We're in a really good position because we have lots of the brick from the renovations and the additions. So this is mainly just manpower for people to be here, some mortar and you know some caulk and those types of materials, and they feel that they can accomplish that work this early spring as soon as the weather turns, and we'll green light them to go forward with that. And then the last piece was the baseball softball field, which we've actually gotten going on, which is the drainage really between the fields. We had about 1.5 feet of material removed throughout that whole valley, back to the original specs from 2008, what it was specs. So they went in there and used those original plans to bring that line of water down through there. It was amazing. It is amazing to see just how much water is going through there constantly, and the fact that it was just kind of spreading out and seeping everywhere before versus now there's a clear path for it to go through. You'll see if you drive by now, we've also extended that culvert from underneath the road out another 80 feet, which is going to allow us a nice walking path between the fields and less area for water to absorb in. So I think that's going to be really good. And hopefully at some point in time we can add in some handicap ramp sidewalk area that would allow us to get down to the field, to the softball diamond a little bit better. So we're positioning ourselves well for that. And that is looking to run right about at the budget that they showed us. They're going to finish up work there for the winter tomorrow, and then they'll be back early spring for the final touch-ups and all of that stuff there. So from a building and grounds, again, we had kind of approved all of that work to get done, but I wanted to get that started, and we did get some of that started before the weather got real cold. So that was why I was in communication with the B&G committee. So just filling you in on that. Any questions? Awesome.
Thank you, David. District financials. Any questions? David?
Yeah, none came to Angie and I this month. So we'd be looking for approval.
If there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion to approve the financials as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. District reports, school report cards, data, and action plans.
Yeah, I'm going to let these new guys, the new guys that didn't earn these scores, they're from last year, but really taking that time to investigate and figure out what their plan is to continue the positive growth that we saw on the report card. We've had some really great conversations about this. They've dug in deep, and I'm going to let them share a little bit about that.
I kind of helped earn this. I had 2 daughters that were in the elementary school recently, so I've had a bit of influence on them, although albeit most of the credit goes to their mother. So we're going to team up. We were going to do 2 separate reports, and then this afternoon we had this epiphany, and we were both thinking along the same lines as we often do, and said, let's just do it together. So that's what we're going to do, because you would have heard a lot of the same information in both of these reports. So we'll kind of go back and forth here. We'll start out with the elementary. Just the overall, the score was 74, which exceeds expectations, and it's up 6.3 points from last year. You can see there the priority area weights. Just for a little informational, the more students that a school has reduced lunch, the more priority is given to the growth as opposed to achievement, which I know you've heard before last year. So you can see on the bottom left-hand corner that that graph just shows where the overall score by year. So we are an upward trend in the last 3 years. And then on the bottom right-hand corner, you can see where Bangor Elementary ranks in comparison to other schools in our conference. So right now, we're number 2. Don't much care for that. We'd like to be number 1. However, we are forming a partnership of sorts here with Royal. I am with their principal, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later in my agenda items. So I think we're, if you look at it that way, we're partnering with the right school. So
if you look at the middle school, high school report card, I put up there that 5-year trend just to kind of show you that it was on a downward slope, but we did increase by a point. Now, I don't want you guys to be too alarmed or shocked when you look at where we fall within the conference. Part of, I think, this process of looking at a school report card is to really dig deep to say, why? Why is the score the way it is? And so one of the things that you're going to hear me talk about is where do we put our priority, our focus with PD, with staff, the initiatives that we do with the students moving forward? Because the question becomes, is it possible to move the needle? It is. Is this all bad news? No. Like there's a lot of hard work that is going on in the classrooms. There's a lot for us to be grateful for, but we can move the needle. And so that's the goal. And so that's the theme that you're going to see as you move through with the middle and the high school slides, because that score compared to the elementary, it's not the same students, and the score then therefore reflects that. But we've got some work to do. And so it's the concept of what are those priorities going to look like.
okay, so on the next, I believe it's 4 slides, I'll just start because elementary's on the top, and then Brian will go over the rest of the slide with you. And before we proceed, I have to give him credit, even though he told me not to. He developed this whole presentation, and then we just we tweaked it this afternoon. So give credit where credit's due. So on achievement, in the achievement category, excuse me, on a points-based proficiency system, we were at a 74.5. In English language arts, we're 73.2, and math a little bit stronger at 75.7.
And so when you look at our score too, I think one thing to pay attention to here is when you look at that graph, because you want us to be towards that right. Mm-hmm. And on one hand, you look at you and think we're doing a great job because we're in the highest amount towards the right. There could be still some movement more towards the right, to not even to the next group that's the small one, because our number there, the 61.5 is the lowest. So then, okay, so how do we move the needle? That's that question that we're going to ask to dig down. And part of that is to focus on the Tier 2 intervention system, and specifically identification through formative assessment. So as students are learning, how do we know they're learning? And so that concept of formative assessment is constantly checking for understanding, and then it really comes down to what do we do as educators when they don't get it? And we have cardinal time. And so it's really being intentional there of targeting those students during that Tier 2 intervention. And like it says, dedicating that time for intensive standards-based instruction. So we've talked about the standards-based concept before, and you're going to see this theme come up in another slide. It's the question of what do we expect the students to learn? And if we have that identified, and then we turn around and we're constantly monitoring whether they're learning it, and we then target those kids who aren't there to help them along, that's going to start to move the needle, because then we know that they're learning it.
All right, so in growth, and this is where we're measuring year-to-year progress in the students. And you're going to see we're at 61.5. Our growth in ELA is a little lower at 58.4 compared to math, 71.7. And Brian brought up a good point. I failed to say, if you look at that graph on the right-hand side, you can get a comparison of where we are in comparison to the rest of the state. So even though, yes, we had a good score as the elementary, there is room to grow, and there's considerable room to grow.
So again, the question then becomes, how do we do that? And so when we talk about a guaranteed curriculum, you guys have heard us talk about identifying the student learning objectives, learning targets, and the success criteria. Again, it's really honing in on what do we want students to learn. And it's across the board. It's every single class. And then with emphasis on the consistent formative feedback. So as the students are learning, how are we communicating to them whether they're doing well, they're succeeding, or they're not learning the material at the pace that we want to, and then this is the feedback we're going to give you to help.
All right, target group outcomes, and we're focusing here on the lower 25% of our students on the forward exam. So those are the students that we're looking at, and you can see that we had a 65.1, and you can see where that falls in the graph compared to other schools in the state.
And the middle high school had 49.7. So it's again, you're just kind of hitting the same theme when we talk about the tier 2 intervention system, specifically though now for the bottom quartile students. So now we're not just looking at all the students across the board who's not getting it. It's just that bottom quartile. How are we providing them intervention time? And then what are we providing that intervention time of? It's the standards-based curriculum.
All right, the last of these particular types of slides, on track to graduate. So obviously there's a measurement of how many of our students are on track to graduate. And at the elementary, we're looking at chronic absenteeism, we're looking at attendance, and we're also looking at their third grade ELA scores. Those are the three scores that combine to make up this score.
And at the high school level, for attendance, PBIS is looking at just different programs in terms of how do we recognize those students that are here, and then to encourage students to be at school. And so basically it's a question of, okay, so really how far could we move the needle? If we could go from 14.8% to 11, so we're dropping the absentee rate, that would be a significant amount, which would, of course, then overall raise the score of the school. And how do we do that? Well, through the school-wide recognition program, again, using PBIS as that, and then just parent communication about how important it is to make sure that your kids are at school, because when they're not here, they're not learning.
All right.
I guess I'm going to jump in there, and Josh, you could probably help me out with some of the conversations we had. I know Rick had worked really hard on that attendance piece up here. That was over 20% following COVID. So there have been efforts made in that area, but I think we can continue to improve in that area to get that number down, and an easy way to help move the score forward. Yep.
No? Okay. So we made Brian talk a little bit more on the.
No, that sounded about right. I mean, it's come back up since the farther we get from COVID.
Okay, so the next couple of slides, I'll chime in if there's something somewhere you feel appropriate. So where are we going? So where have we been, and more importantly, where are we headed? 4K to 12, and we divvied this up. Some of the items here are 4K 12, some are 6-12, some are 4K 6. So 4K 12, Brian talked a little bit about guaranteed viable curriculum in every content area, and really when you talk about guaranteed viable curriculum, you're talking about guaranteed meaning every kid in a class. So at the elementary, this is especially applicable because we have more than one classroom for each grade level. So each kid, regardless of what grade level they're in or what classroom they're in, is getting the same curriculum, and they're on the same pace, and our teachers are on the same pace within a day, and usually they are exactly on the same pace for what the content that they're teaching. So every kid is guaranteed the exact same curriculum. Viable meaning that really it's realistic for the amount of content that is being taught is realistic to fit into the time that we have to teach it. That's what the viable piece is. So when we're looking at that, we're looking at the learning cycle, which, well, I'm going to cover the learning cycle in a couple of bullet points. We're looking at the SLOs, the learning targets, and the success criteria. Next bullet, collaborative team time. So for 612, they're really looking for ways to, and of course, if you want to, this is your part, but they're really looking for ways to increase the time that their PLCs have to meet. It's a scheduling struggle right now.
So when I did rounding this fall, I met with every single teacher and I just asked them, like, what's going well? What do you need help with? And one of the themes that came out was, for us to complete the guaranteed viable curriculum, like, we just need the time. And so then when we narrow it down to, once a week they can meet as a group for 35 minutes. And realistically, we know that even though we schedule the 35 minutes, it's not 35 minutes, because by the time they get started, let's talk 30. Even at 30, it's not until the following Monday that they come back to it. So when you're just trying to even work through units within one class, that can be really challenging. And we know that our staff, because they're small, they're not just juggling one class, they're juggling multiple curriculums. So they're just saying, like, how can we have more time? And so that's one of the things that I've been bringing up at admin and through Guiding Coalition are there ways that we can be creative with the schedule just to provide you guys consistent time? So it doesn't seem like it's that one time a month, once every Monday or once every Wednesday when they get to meet.
Yeah, and just to clarify, to be clear, this has been a problem for longer. Of course, it's nothing new to this year. In fact, Rick was my mentor when I was going through my principalship program, and he and I talked about this quite a bit, about this very, very issue. And so, it's it's an uphill battle that Brian is taking on, and he's being very innovative in how to do that. 4K to 6 for collaborative time. We have the time. The time is built in. That's not an issue. They have common prep time. So really for us, it's continuing that laser focus on what we're doing with that time, where we're bringing the common planning, but also more importantly, or as importantly, is bringing common formative assessments to our meetings so that they have data on which to continue their responsive teaching. Next bullet, 4K to 12, consistent and targeted formative. Oh, I said I was going to talk about the learning cycle. Back up a bullet. So when we're talking about the learning cycle in there, we're talking about the standards that we're teaching, which lead to the learning targets and the SLOs. And then we're really looking at the four big questions of PLCs, which are, what do we want the kids to teach? Comes from our standards. How do we know if they're getting it? Which from our formative and our summative assessments, and then what are we doing with the kids? How are we helping the kids who don't yet have it with the interventions, the tier 2 interventions, and also tier 3 interventions, and then finally, what do we do with the kids who are getting it, so that they're not stagnant, but we're continuing to enrich their education as well. All right, next bullet point. 4K to 12, consistent and targeted formative assessments. I guess we're reiterating here a little bit, but really just identifying those kids, those students who need more assistance on a particular subject, and making sure that they're getting that intervention time. Last bullet on this page is this would be a 612 dedicated intervention time, and this is something Brian might want to talk about with Cardinal time and finding that time for kids. And again, this is something that I'm familiar with from last year and the year before, finding that time with kids during Cardinal time in order to be able to give them that tier 2 intervention, help them when they need the help.
And so one of the things that I've been doing is I've been talking to kids and just interviewing them, like just pulling them out of class and just asking them questions about, how do you know what you're learning, and how do you know if you've learned it or not? And one of the themes that I'm hearing is, so if you're not learning it, are you going to Cardinal time? And typically it's, well, only if I'm requested. But you have the autonomy, the power to request yourself. But then really that's just a mind shift. So it's about, as a school, getting into, creating that culture where not our students just requested for Cardinal time, but students can request themselves to get that additional help. And then, but how do they know? Well, then again, using that formative assessment. And the other part of that is really embracing Cardinal time. So we have it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday's an enrichment day. That's really for SEL, social emotional learning day. And when you look at Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, remember, one of those days teachers are taken away for PLC. So then they're really only given 2 days to offer that. And then it's a question of, again, appropriate timely feedback for students. So if they are given a formative assessment on Monday, but they don't get a chance to meet with those students until Wednesday, they've sometimes moved on already to the next topic or continued the lesson. So it's just about timeliness with Cardinal time.
All right, wrapping up here. So Next bullet is 4K engagement. We talked about quite a bit during our strategic planning, and we'll continue to talk about that, is that belonging and in having every student feel like they belong here in school. And so, we're taking steps to maximize not only student engagement, but also family engagement. I know from conversations we've had that Brian feels the exact same way, but whenever I speak with parents, even when it's difficult conversations, which there are very difficult conversations that have to be had with parents, it's always in the spirit of we're in this together. And we're partners in this path on, even when, sometimes it's, like I said, they aren't the most pleasant subjects to talk about, but we always want to have the family feel like we have their backs and that they're supporting us as well. K4 to 12, specific personalized skills for success, fulfilling the district's vision and mission. Again, we've talked about this at length during our planning session, strategic planning session. And we'll continue to do that. So an example I have here, would be only one example, is recently diagnosed, not just myself, but also some of our teachers at the elementary, that with some of our behaviors, our more challenging behaviors, our attempts to rectify those behaviors just felt scattered in our approach. So just in the last couple of weeks, we formed a behavior support team. And so we have a team of people Josh is part of it, that we're dedicated to brainstorming with the teacher, with the classroom teacher, what can we do to help this kid turn their behavior around. And so I'm excited. It's a work in progress, but I'm really excited that we've got this going, and the teachers, you can just feel that the teachers are excited about it too, because they feel like they just have more support. And then lastly, the spirit of collaboration. Everybody pushing in the same direction, and I'm gonna kind of quote Coach Mullenberg, and I say Coach Mullenberg because he and I had, he mentored me not only as a principal, but also as a football coach, because I coached the middle school football team with Nick Meacham for the last several years, and one of the things that I just stuck with me, that what he said is, he always felt like with his teams, if you had the guy, if every person on the team had the feeling that they did not want to let down the person on their left and the guy on their right, then you've made it. And that is very applicable for our staff teams as well. And that's something that I'm continually preaching to our staff is, we're all in this together, and we just don't want to let each other down. We're all pushing in the same direction. And I think a great example, I was telling Brian today, one of the things that just makes me think about that all the time is when we have a staff member that's absent and we have recess duty that has to be covered, Terry puts it out in an email in the morning, and staff members just pick it up. They just pick up the slack. They don't get paid any extra for that. They just do it, because they're just team players, and I think that's pretty outstanding. I'm not sure that happens everywhere.
Questions?
Any questions for either of our principals?
I would just end that with the work of the two buildings, both buildings working hard, their staffs working hard to get those scores up. Did take the district score from a 62.4 to a 65.3 as well. So, we're so meeting expectations. The elementary school is now exceeding expectations, and that's where we want to be as a district. That's the next step, and what we'll continue to work for. So, I really appreciate these guys and the work they put into dissecting this. They spent some time with CISA to kind of really understand it all, and I think it's really important for their and collective commitments to the steps forward. So thank you guys for all your work on that.
Yeah, thank you very much for the information. Very helpful. All right, moving on. Personnel, Dr. Brockup.
I'm going to let Dave take this one for our new special education teacher.
All right, here we go. So we hired a new special education teacher. Her name is Allie Tylen, and she has been with us before, because she was a student teacher in the fall, in the first 9 weeks of we're on trimesters, but in the first 9 weeks of the school year. And so Allie was one of 3 that we interviewed, and she was unanimously our first choice. When not only in the interview and in her experience as a student teacher with Mrs. Brockup's 3rd grade class, but also in the reference checks I did, what came through loud and clear is that she's really good at establishing positive relationships with students. And that's is especially important for a special education teacher, because there's some challenging kids to deal with. And so the way that you achieve success is through establishing that relationship with those kids. So we're excited to have her. She's finishing up her the second part of her student teaching in Sparta right now. She will be with us on this Friday for a PD day, so she can start planning with her colleagues, and then she will join us permanently or for the rest of the year on January 22nd. She finishes up January 21st with the student teaching. She'll be with us January 22nd. Any questions about Allie? Fantastic.
So I ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the hire of Allison Tylen. Is that how you said it? Okay. As elementary special ed teacher, effective 25.
2026, I apologize.
Oh, yeah, 2026.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I'll second.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Kelly. Are there any other questions or comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Administrative reports. Josh, none? All right, Mr. Luke.
Okay, I'm back. So last Wednesday, a week ago today, I took 3 teachers. We went down to Royal. They are in their second year of the inter-reading curriculum. We're in our first year of the inter-reading curriculum. And we were there for about a half a day. And the teachers, so it was a kindergarten teacher, Bridget Powers. And it was really cool, actually. Is just one of the, I don't know, one of the more, I'm not sure what the word is, but maybe inspiring things that has happened this year. She came to me and she said, I'd like to go and shadow a teacher down at Royal. And I thought, just what great initiative for her to do that. So I took her as well as our 2 reading specialists, and we met with their reading specialists, and the teachers had a chance to observe their teachers. And then we also had about a 30-minute session where we sat down with their kindergarten teachers and were able to talk with them. In the process, it's pretty cool because we came away from that feeling like all 4 of us came away feeling like we're doing pretty well. We went down there to learn, and we did learn, and we'll continue to learn. But we definitely felt like we're heading in the right direction with this curriculum. So it's been a tough push. The curriculum is difficult for the teachers. It's been difficult for me. When you're adopting a new curriculum, it's extremely important that you adopt it and you implement it with fidelity to the curriculum. At the same time, the teachers have to have the ability to be professional, responsive teachers. And so when they see something in the curriculum that maybe they can change a little bit in order to make it better for their students, you have to allow them to do that. So it's really a fine line that you're walking. And it was really good to walk away from Royal feeling as though we're doing it right. So next is the winter concert. So on Monday we had our winter concert, and it was the first winter concert for Abby Sass, and she knocked it out of the park. It was awesome, and I know it was very stressful for her, and but she just did a really good job. I have to thank Dr. Brock up along with many other people for helping to organize that event. It's the first time that it's been at the Activity Center, and I think that Dr. Brock might have something to add to this. My take on it from the feedback I've gotten, and also from just my own personal observation of it, is I think what a great venue for it. I do think that we have some kinks to work out to make it even better. I think there have been a few concerns. You always, when I look at an event, we always do. Not always, but I usually try to do what's called an after action review. So what went well, what do we need to improve on, and how are we going to improve it? And you have to listen, you have to look at the big picture, because there will always be negative comments, but you have to take into account all the positive comments as well. And so I think that's important for us to remember. And when we do look at those quote unquote negative comments, what can we learn from that and how can we make it better? So we're doing that. Abby is going to put together a form to send out to staff so we can get their feedback on it and move forward. Behavior support team, I already talked about that, so I guess I'll skip over it. We don't need to be redundant. Make a difference, club bell ringing at Hanson's. That's on December 19th. Just wanted to make a note that they're doing that. That's Mr. Jacobson's team of fifth graders. They'll be down there on December 19th at Hanson's doing some bell ringing. And then third, I just wanted to put a note in there, as I mentioned. It's the curriculum has been a pretty tough. It's been a heavy lift, in Mike Johnson's words, and so that's been in a good way, but it's been taxing, on the staff, including myself. So we've really taken this Thanksgiving and Christmas season to really implement some different activities at the school to show the teachers how much we appreciate them and their work. So that's the work that we're doing right now in these days as we speak. Any questions on any of that? All right.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wolpat.
All right, so the first thing I'd like to talk to you guys about is the Community Service Day. Jordan shared just a little bit about it, sponsored by the U.S. government class. So, it's those students then that choose the activities, they organize everything, get everything together, and then that day they run the actual activity itself. The morning, basically the day before Thanksgiving break, that morning, all the high school was divided up into small groups, and they did like door decorating, creating the snowflakes for the elementary school. It had group activities in the gym. In the afternoon, then they were divided up into 8 different groups and spread out between Bangor and Rockland, raking, setting up Christmas tree, baking cookies, setting up the commons. And if you get a chance around the corner here over by the tech ed rooms, take a peek, because they've all had to put presentations together. So they have pictures plus explanations of what their projects were. If you had a chance to watch WKBT or WXOW, both of them did really good reports on that day. Just another great way to just showcase what's going on. The second thing that I want to bring up is, so I brought to you guys the GED option 2 this fall, and we have our first student that's actually participating. And what's interesting is, we brought that to you. We also then just recently brought to you the whole concept of the AI policy. And so now what I want to share with you guys is how kind of the two have been blended together and kind of what it's created. So as a first candidate, just to give you kind of an insight into terms of what he's going through, we're basically giving him practice tests in both English, oh my gosh, I almost said Spanish, English, math, social studies, and science. And based on the results, it actually prints out and gives him these are the concepts that you've missed. And then we purchased workbooks to help him learn, and it tells exactly on page 17, this is what you have to study. And so we worked him through some of these workbooks, and he's like, nope, I'm ready to go take the test. So we took him down to Western, because that's where the official site is for testing, and he missed it by 1 point. But the printout, again, gives everything that he needs. So this time we chose other resources, and we made photocopies. And I'm telling you, it was like this thick. And for a student to look at that and go, are you for real? I've already spent all this time studying. So we decided to take all these reports, throw it into AI, and say, okay, you're going to create a learning plan for this student, but you are going to be the tutor for him. So when he logs in, you are going to look and analyze based on the results of the 2 tests that he's taken so far and create questions for him. If he gets them right, you're going to, celebrate the success. If he doesn't get it right, you're going to run him through a mini lesson. And then again, provide a formative check to see if he gets it. And then when he does, then you're going to actually kick the question back into the bank of questions and knowledge that he has to work on. And he has just been sitting and working through it constantly. And because we're using ChatGPT, not only can I, but also the at-risk teacher can monitor how he's doing. So we get messages like, oh, he selected A and it was correct. He selected B, it wasn't correct. So we ran him through the mini lesson and we've kicked the question back. So it's kind of an interesting way that we've meshed both worlds together. just, again, to try to maximize and personalize the learning and just kind of give him what he needs to move forward. The third thing that I'd like to bring up to you guys is cardinal time privileges. So this year we transferred from using like GPA as the determiner in terms of what students are able to actually come into the commons during cardinal time, to every week we run a report to see who's missed F, D minus, D, or D plus. Those kids are kept in cardinal time. So then when I talked earlier about, they're told where to go during cardinal time, that's how we determine who gets to go there. Everyone else that has a C minus or above gets to come out here. And after the first few weeks, so this year too, I kept going using what Rick had created with the student advisory group. And one of the bits of feedback we got is it just doesn't feel like an honors cardinal time. Well, the first thing was because they're like, can we have a la carte? So thanks to Jean, she brings out a la carte now. That took care of that. But then they still at the next meeting were like, well, it just doesn't really feel like it. So one of the things we talked about was, okay, so what about second semester? Because our whole goal is to encourage you to do well. Like, that's what we want. And so from the student advisory group, like, is C minus good enough, or do we need to raise the bar? And they said, yeah, like you actually could do B minus. Now, I had already had the conversation with Dr. Brockup about, because at some schools, if you have passing grades, you get to leave during that time because you already have done the work. You have basically priv time, cardinal priv time. So took that back to the group and took it to Guiding Coalition and Leadership and said, what if second semester we revamp it? So we're going to keep the C minus for freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors out here. So that becomes that criteria. Based on what came back from the student group, if you are a junior or senior and you have a B minus or better in all your grades, you have cardinal priv. And it basically allows you then just to go home early. And so we are going to roll that out then second semester. We've really shored up attendance because we've just been using like a spreadsheet. And now for teachers to take attendance, well, when you get 100 kids out here, that can, we used to be just screaming names. Now they just key in their lunch code and it automatically takes attendance. Again, thanks to AI for creating something like that. But we'll be able to use that same system for checkout. So we'll be able to monitor the kids that are here and then they have to exit here as well to go. And so you're really the first to hear about this because the kids don't know. I will also say that in Miss Freimiller's debate class, they have to create proposals of policy change, and this is one of them that has come up a couple times. So they have absolutely no idea that this is actually going to happen. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up and then answer questions if you have any. The last thing then is just we solidified a date for next year. It's kind of crazy. We're still in 2025, but yep, September 18th, 2026 will be the homecoming day game. So it'll be, again, another great week of just showing Bangor pride.
There are two other parts of that privilege. One, parents have to consent. We'll have the permission for that, which helps us immensely. And two, if they're missing something, then they didn't check out through the right process, they lose that privilege for a matter of period
2
of time.
weeks. Yep, 2 weeks
and
revoked.
then they can earn it back again. But so there's been some real thought into making sure that is good. And again, that's the last, how many minutes of the day?
36.
36
Yeah,
minutes of the day.
it's during that
So,
intervention time. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, kind of, again, a good reward for those kids. Sorry, I just wanted to add those pieces from
thank
the
you.
accountability piece. They've really thought about all of that.
Any questions for Dr. Wopat, or Mr. Wopat, sorry.
Someday, maybe.
All right, Dr. Brockup.
I didn't have anything on this, but I just will share. I shared with the Building and Grounds Committee tonight the job description and job posting for the Building and Grounds Director. I'm going to get a little feedback from them, run it through the admin team, and run through with Mike one last time, and then look to post that at the end of the week. And I have on there initial screening of applicants January 26th of 2026, and then we'll see what we got there and hopefully get rolling. Ideally, we could have somebody, end of April, early May, for some transition time, be here at the end of the year for graduation and sectional track and all of those things when things are really crazy. So just sharing that out real quick.
Any questions for Dr. Brockup? All right. Removal of items from the consent agenda. Consent agenda items include current openings, baseball and softball field drainage maintenance, middle school, high school roof maintenance, middle high school masonry maintenance, Schedule C changes, and 2024-2025 district financial aid audit.
I will note, Joni has asked for that line to be removed from the audit for the not making the adjustments. Angie went through a lot of work this year, got that removed, and Joni's not even here to comment on it. So it's a great looking audit, and that has been on there as long as Angie has been here. So she figured out how to do that. So hopefully we'll continue to keep it off in the future. So thanks to Angie for all her work on that, and for Joni for being persistent.
If there's no removal, I would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Shelley, seconded by Lisa, to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I ask for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Tina, to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, everyone.